Before we start this job, you should know that you have to get your AC system professionally evacuated, get the refrigerant out of there safely. Your local shop should be able to do that if they have an AC machine. Don't attempt to disassemble anything with refrigerant still in there. Now that that's done, let's go ahead and start the job. I'm gonna have to remove the grill 10mm bolt over here, and another one on the other side. Take both of those out. I have to take out the parking light because behind it there's a screw that mounts the grill into the fender here. And I'll show you once this comes out, but there's a clip that you have to press on, and that basically releases the parking light. It's this right here, except you have to go with a plastic trim tool in between there and just pop that out. There will be two bulbs on the back side, which you can either unplug or unscrew, I guess. I'm gonna unplug them, that way the bulb itself can stay with the light and it doesn't bounce around in here, potentially get damaged. Okay, well, I'm gonna do this, that way I can unplug it easier. And I'm gonna stick it back in here so that the bulb is safe. Right here is your 10mm bolt. It's actually a screw that I was talking about. Remove this. And, oh, it is a bolt. Never mind, whatever. And now this whole side is free. We'll move towards the center here. Just pop it out. And then if you follow it along, we'll do the same exact thing to the other side. And now I left this in on purpose because it's gonna be held on here at the top. All you have to do is just pull straight out two clips that hold it in. There we go. And the grill pops right off. Set that aside. Over here, there's a little cap, plastic cap. Pull that off. And it's a little dirtier than the radiator, but you can see these little hooks here. Sometimes you have to work at them with the pick to loosen them up a little bit. Just find the end of it, and once you find the end, you can pull it away. Yep, there we go, just like that. You may need two picks. Sometimes I've needed two, one to pull away, one to hook on, but looks like this one came off easily, and the line is held on here. So let's just unhook this so we can hopefully slide the lines out. There we go. Now they're both separated. Same thing over here. There you go. You can use a little screwdriver or pry bar if you need to. And like I said earlier, rust penetrant can always help break things free in here, especially these little clips. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to use two picks this time because I have a feeling this one's pretty stuck in here. Okay, take that out. Make sure you have a collection bucket or whatever you have to catch the fluid. I'm going to use a little rubber mallet like this, very small, very light, just to create some vibrations and hopefully pop it out. You can very, very gently go side to side too. Yep, I think it's coming out. Definitely. There we go. Perfect. So that's one line. Again, transmission fluid will most likely come out for you if your vehicle has ran recently. This one's been sitting for a few weeks. And now with this side out of here, let's do the same to this side. And with the lines out, I'm just going to protect them from debris with some clean rags here. At the top, to unbolt the cooler, you have this cover here. You can probably get in here with a wrench, but it might be easier to just pull these two push clips off, take the cover off, and then remove the two bolts. There's one, or pop out the center actually, and then the rest of it should come with it. And actually, I don't even have to remove it. I'm just going to swing it to the side like that. Get a 10mm socket, remove both of those bolts. And then the cooler should be free to come out. Slide it out from the bottom, just like that. Get it out from under the hood latch cable, and transmission fluid might come out, but here's your transmission cooler. I cleaned off this fitting here just because it was full of gunk and I don't want any debris getting into the system, because the AC machine that evacuated the AC actually pulls a vacuum on it. So as soon as you pop this off, it's going to want to suck air in, and if debris is in there, it's going to suck that in too. Either way, with a 13 millimeter, let's remove this nut here and get the line off of the AC condenser. Sometimes this whole stud will come out with it. That's fine. The new AC condenser comes with a stud, so just disconnect it however it wants to come off for you. There you go. You can hear the vacuum. That's what I was talking about. So I'll set this aside. Make sure it's not going to get anything in there. Cover it with a rag if you want to. And now let's go to the other side. On the complete opposite side, diagonal, on the AC condenser, you'll see another 13 millimeter nut that looks the same. Disconnect this one as well. And pull the line right off. Set this aside. You can wrap a rag around this one too if you want. At this point there are 4 13 millimeter bolts, 2 on each side. Remove those and then we can pull the AC condenser right off. Pull this right off of the vehicle, clear the latch, pull it up and out, and there you have it. Like I mentioned before, the new AC condenser comes with new mounting studs for the lines, so go ahead and thread them on by hand. There's a cutout for a 6 millimeter socket or wrench, whatever you want to use. Leave that out, obviously, so you can use that to thread this in. And just go ahead until it bottoms out. It has a little area here that has no threads, and that's what has to bottom out up against the AC condenser. Don't make it very tight, just bottom it out and make it snug. When you put the nut on, it's going to tighten everything together. That part is just here so you can have a reference as to how far to go in with it. And of course do the same to both fittings. Nice and snug. All right, let's get this in. Take the AC condenser, slide it down so it can clear the hood latch. There we go. And line it up with the bolt holes on the side. I'm going to bolt it on first, that way it's held in place, and then I'll connect the lines. With all 4 bolts lined up, let's snug them. Don't go crazy, just enough to squish these bushings a little bit, just like that. Okay, that feels good. It doesn't move around, it's tight. Let's connect the lines. It's a good idea to replace your O-rings here and lube them up with PAG oil before you connect the lines into the new condenser. There we go, slide that on. Go ahead and put your mounting nut on. We'll bottom it out and make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, again, 13 millimeter wrench or socket. Snug this up. Perfect. Let's do the same to the other line. Slide this in all the way. Thread on your mounting nut. And let's snug it up. Nice and tight. Let's install the transmission cooler. So slide it in on the bottom at the top here. Don't forget to slide it underneath the cable. And then we'll put this down kind of like this. Get it ready. Put on your 2 bolts. Let's snug these up. Hold it in position. Sure it's nice and tight. Let's put this plastic cover back with the push clip. Line this up, take the center and push it through. And now to lock it in, put in the outside. Push that through. That's secure. This is secure. Now we just have to connect the lines. Take the line and feed it into this fitting here and make sure that when it goes in, this little ring clicks. You have to wiggle it and push at the same time until it seats itself. As you can see, it is far from doing that because it still can pop out easily. Sometimes it's a little difficult to get it, especially if it's not at the exact angle that it wants to be at. But just keep wiggling it, keep pushing. And looks like it's slowly sliding up for me. Oh, I think we're good. Let's put the plastic cap over. That locks everything in. Do the same to this side. Now take your line, line it up with the fitting on the cooler. Go ahead and press it through, either until you hear a click or you see this little locking clip snapping down into place. And it looks like if you give it a tug, it should not come out, which it doesn't, so that means it's locked in. Let's put this cover on. There we go. If your cover doesn't go on, it's because the line isn't seated. Over here, this clip, this retainer, just secures the line onto this bracket. So we're good here now. Let's put the grill back on. Watch out for your headlights, don't scratch them. And the important thing is to have your wires for the parking lights come out through these holes before you actually fully attach the grill. There we go. Now line up all your clips, which were a couple at the bottom. This one's broken for me. And then two at the top, basically right on these two reinforcement tracks. Okay, now let's bolt it in. Let's bolt it back up on the corners. And don't forget about your parking lights. Reconnect the bulbs. And the way you put this in has a little hook here that has to go into this hole. Once that lines up, you just push it through until you hear a click, and that should be secured. Let's put the two bolts in at the top of the grill. Now that we're done with this job, you want to double check the level of your transmission fluid. This is the transmission fluid dipstick here. Flip it out like this, pull it out with a rag. I'm going to wipe it clean. And not a lot of fluid should have come out, just what was in the lines and maybe in the cooler, but it's still a good idea to check it because you did lose some. So if you look over here, you might be able to see there's a cold fill and a hot fill. You want to be preferably measuring it when it's hot, so after you've run the vehicle and even driven a few miles. But if you don't feel comfortable driving on it, then just let it run for 5-10 minutes. Get it nice and warm, and make sure that the transmission fluid level with the car in park on a level surface is here in the hot range. If it's not, and if it's too low, then go ahead and add until you're somewhere here. If it's too high, well, that's impossible because you just lost some. So just make sure it's within this range, and then stick it back in. You can fill it through the dipstick tube. Just use a funnel, make sure you don't spill. Stick the dipstick back in. Let the fluid settle. After 5 or 10 minutes, go ahead and check it again to make sure that it is actually full. And once you're happy with the level it's at, cap it off. If you need to know what type of fluid to use, go ahead and check your owner's manual. Now that the AC condenser is installed, you can go down to your local shop and have the AC system professionally recharged. You want to make sure that you have the right amount of refrigerant and PAG oil in there. It's important for it to be properly filled so that the system can function properly.